For a decade, my brother harbored resentment towards me. During our final quarrel, I departed on a solitary journey, only to be unexpectedly confronted by an earthquake. Just as the chandelier above me threatened to descend, my brother suddenly appeared, placing himself in front of me. Ching ching, flee at once, and do not look back. The chandelier crashed down with a tremendous force, shattering his spine, yet he managed to bestow upon me a serene smile. Our parents entrusted me with the duty of caring for you. I have fulfilled that promise. In the next lifetime, I hope you do not cross paths with our family again. I was seized, powerless to intervene as I witnessed my brother being entirely buried beneath the rubble. That night, having lost my last remaining kin, I leapt without hesitation into the river. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself transported back to the day of our reunion. I beheld my brother waiting outside the police station, and as I approached him, I brushed past. I called out to a boy behind him. "Brother, do you not remember anything at all?" The female officer gazed at me intently, her pen poised, unwilling to overlook any detail. "Think again, perhaps about your surname, where you might have lived, and who your family members are. You were around 7 or 8 when you were abducted. Logically, you should have some recollections." I lowered my eyelids and spoke slowly. "I was beaten there continuously. On one occasion, I was struck on the head and lost consciousness. When I awoke, I couldn't recall anything." Instantly, the officer's expression shifted to one of sympathy. She set down her pen. "It's all right. If anything comes to mind later, feel free to contact us." As I exited the police station, I intended to head toward the temporary accommodation they had arranged for me. However, I spotted a familiar figure hastily approaching. "Brother?" A tremor coursed through my heart. In my previous life, it was only after the police contacted the Gu family that Gu Zhao reluctantly came to fetch me. Why was he here now? Upon noticing me, Gu Zhao's eyes brightened, and he hurried over in quick strides. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, he preempted me. "I warn you, don't try to form any connections. Our Gu family already has a daughter." A sudden realization struck me. So, Gu Zhao had also been reborn. No wonder he was anxious to stop me from seeking familial ties as I had in my past life. A pang of bitterness welled up within me. Yet I feigned confusion, lifting my head. "Who are you? What do you mean by the Gu family?" At my words, Gu Zhao's face contorted in suspicion. "What tricks are you trying to play?" I pointed to my head and replied succinctly, "I genuinely don't recognize you. I was injured here, and I can't remember much." Upon hearing of my injury, a flicker of guilt crossed Gu Zhao's eyes, though it vanished quickly. "Whether you're truly amnesiac or pretending, just know this. The Gu family is not a place for you." After a pause, he continued, "Although we are strangers, out of pity for you, I can offer you some money and help you find a place to stay, sufficient for you to live until adulthood. As long as you refrain from making a nuisance of yourself in front of my family." I shook my head. "Thank you, but I don't need it." Ignoring his astonished gaze, I stepped into the car. Memories of Gu Zhao's last moments in my past life flooded my mind, where he smiled and said he could finally reunite with his parents and sister. My heart ached unbearably. He had sacrificed everything to save me, yet in his heart, I was merely a replacement for another. Since his family of 4 had lived happily without me, I resolved that this time they should continue to be blissful. Upon arriving at the guest house, I lay on the bed but found sleep elusive. Gazing out at the inky night sky, memories surged forth like a tidal wave. In my previous life, it was during this very year that the police rescued me from the mountains. I cried as I revealed my parents' names and address, believing I would finally return home. Yet, upon my return, I discovered an unfamiliar girl in my place. My parents awkwardly explained that they had adopted her due to their immense grief after my abduction. Her name was Gu Yao. The complexity in their eyes as they looked at me was like that of a stranger who had suddenly intruded upon their lives. While they treated the girl with tenderness, as if she were their true daughter, they had once cherished me above all. Overcome with despair, I screamed hysterically, accusing the girl of being a thief who had stolen my rightful home. My parents scolded me for my immaturity. I cried uncontrollably, my voice hoarse. But why should she enjoy the comforts I had been deprived of? My parents gazed at me in silence, their eyes filled with both sorrow and hesitation. That night, the girl left a letter and quietly departed, stating she was returning to the orphanage, not wishing to shatter our family further. Anxiety gnawed at my heart. Yet, my parents did not reprimand me. They merely sighed and said they would visit the orphanage to bring her back. My brother wanted to accompany them, but was stopped. "You stay home with your sister. She has only just returned. You must take good care of her." Ultimately, they never returned. Their car met with an accident on the way back to collect the girl. All three were lost. From that day onward, my brother harbored a deep-seated hatred for me, one that lasted a full decade. Reflecting on this, I felt a tightening in my throat and a stinging in my eyes. I wiped away the tears at the corners of my eyes. Now, I could not return to the Gu family, so I needed to contemplate my future. And not yet 16, I required a guardian. Suddenly, a name surfaced in my mind. Shen Yu, a frail boy who had always shielded me during beatings. In my previous life, had it not been for him, I would have fallen victim to the foolish son of the family that intended to purchase me as a child bride. When we were punished and confined in a pigsty, shivering, he wrapped his remaining clothing around me. From now on, I will be your brother. I will protect you. Together, we endured countless hardships. However, he was later sold to another village. When rescued, the police stated that the villagers had been saved prior to us. In my past life, I had intended to seek him out, but the sudden upheaval at home prevented me from doing so. This time, I resolved to find him. The following day, at dawn, I went to the police station. Uncle, Auntie, I've remembered where my home is. After registering my information, I turned to leave the station, only to have Gu Zhao seize my wrist in a rush. You tricked me again. You are indeed pretending. Why do you want to return to the Gu family? They don't welcome you. His voice trembled, suppressing immense rage. Don't you understand? I already have a sister. My parents dote on her immensely and do not need an extra daughter. I shrugged off his grip and continued walking silently. Gu Zhao, enraged by my indifference, shouted, "Weren't you abducted? Why not just stay in the mountains for the rest of your life?" His frantic demeanor mirrored that of my parents after their deaths. When he pointed at me and cursed, "Why don't you die for them?" I raised my hand and slapped him hard. The sharp sound momentarily silenced him. "Do you think you can speak to me however you wish?" I glared at him, enunciating each word. "In your eyes, is it deserved for those who have been abducted to perish outside?" Gu Zhao seemed to awaken from his stupor, staggering back a step, regret flickering in his eyes. "I'm sorry." The female officer, unable to bear it any longer, furrowed her brows and stepped in front of me. "Comrade, how can you speak like that? This young lady is searching for her family. Do you have the right to interfere?" Gu Zhao remained silent for a moment, then, with a cold expression, gripped my arm. "You want to go home, right? Let us go." I wrenched free from his hold, retreating behind the female officer. "I do wish to return home. But what business is that of yours? My brother's name is Shen Yu, and he resides in Province S," I stated clearly to Gu Zhao. He was taken aback, then looked at me incredulously. "Gu Qing, you've become quite capable? Where did you get a brother named Shen Yu?" The female officer immediately became alert, pulling me protectively behind her and turning to ask, "Young lady, do you know him?" I shook my head, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know him. Moreover, my surname is Shen, not Gu." Gu Zhao's expression shifted to one of utter disbelief as he stared at me. Suddenly, a realization seemed to dawn on him. "You've returned, Haven to you?" I kept my head lowered, fingers clutching the hem of my clothing tightly. "I don't understand what you're saying. Gu Qing." Gu Zhao's eyes blazed with hatred. "Do you think that by pretending to be foolish and amnesiac, you can erase the fact that you are a murderer? You even fabricated a false name to deceive me." He scoffed. "What, do you think I would be anxious?" He stepped closer, his gaze laced with sarcasm. "So, your brother is Shen Yu, is he? Why not go find him?" He stared at me with a self-satisfied smirk, as if he were certain I would be thrown into a state of panic. "Crazy," the female officer scolded, grabbing my hand and ushering me into the police car. "Let us go, ignore him." At this, Gu Zhao became flustered, rushing to the car and banging on the window. "Where are you going?" he exclaimed, only to be met with a mouthful of exhaust fumes. The vehicle drove for an extended period before finally halting in front of a quaint garden villa. I was taken aback. I hadn't anticipated Shen Yu's family to be so affluent. My confidence in seeking refuge with him surged. We approached the door and knocked, waiting a considerable time before it was answered. The man who stood behind the door was tall and handsome, yet a pallid hue betrayed a hint of frailty. His tousled hair partially obscured his eyes, and the cuffs of his shirt were rolled up to his elbows, revealing slender wrists. Upon seeing us, he paused, bewildered. "Who are you?" "Brother, I'm your sister," I exclaimed, throwing myself into his arms. He stiffened, yet did not immediately push me away. "Gu Qing, are you out of your mind?" Gu Zhao suddenly charged up the hallway, yanking me away, with anger etched on his face. "What are you doing? Do you even know who he is? Just rushing into a stranger's embrace? Have you considered the consequences of being close to a potential villain?" Observing Gu Zhao's disheveled appearance, It was evident he had followed us closely, much like a past life where he had stealthily trailed behind to ultimately save me at the cost of his own life. I gazed at him, my expression a mixture of confusion and resolve. He is my brother. What gives you the right to condemn him? Gu Zhao's incredulity morphed into a bitter laugh. He is your brother? Gu Qing, have you even opened your eyes? I retorted, if he is not my brother, then are you? I locked eyes with him, witnessing his mouth open as if about to protest, only to halt abruptly. He shot me a glare before sneering. I almost let you sway me. I told you I am not your brother. You are not worthy of being my sister. I smiled bitterly. The female officer, finally unable to contain her frustration, interjected sharply, you too, who is her brother? At the moment I flung myself into Shen Yu's embrace, he had already recognized me. Gazing into my pleading eyes, Shen Yu sighed and turned to the officer. I am her brother. Thank you for helping me find my sister. Gu Zhao's expression shifted to one of disbelief. Very well, then, he said darkly, fixing his gaze upon me. This is not me forcing you. It is your own choice. Don't regret it later. With that, he turned and left. Watching Gu Zhao's retreating figure, an unshakable bitterness welled within me. Was this not precisely what he desired? I resolved not to return home, yet why did he display such a look of betrayal? Once everyone had departed, I quietly addressed Shen Yu. I'm sorry for the trouble I've caused you. Is that your real brother? Shen Yu inquired. If it involves family disputes, he advised. Wait until things settle down before returning home. I shook my head, memories from my past life flooding my mind. I could no longer go back. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, my peripheral vision caught sight of a medicine bottle on the table, left carelessly out in the open. My heart sank as I read the label. Glancing at the man whose head was bowed in ambiguous contemplation, I grasped Shen Yu's hand tightly. You once said that if I lost my family, you would take on the role of my brother and care for me for life. Does that still hold true? My voice trembled. Shen Yu remained silent for what felt like an eternity, long enough for me to believe time itself had frozen. Finally, he nodded, it holds true. I joyfully leaped into his embrace. From this day forth, you shall be my true brother, and I, your soul sister. I tilted my face upwards to look at him, affirming our bond as family. Now, brother, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten all day. Shen Yu appeared momentarily taken aback. All right, I'll go buy some groceries. What would you like? How about scrambled eggs with tomatoes? And just pick up whatever else you think is good, I replied casually. Shen Yu nodded and departed. Seizing the opportunity, I hastily stowed the medications away in a drawer, pretending to be oblivious. However, it wasn't too long before a knock echoed at the door. How could you return so quickly? I opened the door, only to find Gu Zhao standing there, his face clouded with anger. What are you doing here? Before I could react, he seized my hand and pulled me outside. You're coming with me. I jerked my hand free. Where are you taking me? Home. Gu Zhao insisted. Gu Qing, even if you're pretending to be oblivious, there's a limit. Do you really intend to stay in a stranger's house without clarity? His voice grew weary. Since we're back, let bygones be bygones. When we return home, be sensible. My parents and I want to mistreat you. Stop competing with Yao Yao. I interrupted him. What if I say my condition for returning home is that Gu Yao must leave? Would you agree? The air thickened with tension. Gu Zhao stared at me in disbelief, his eyes darkening with malice. I knew it. You truly are malicious by nature. Why must you force Yao Yao out? Let me tell you, don't get your hopes up. Yao Yao has been with our parents for so many years. She's already like a true daughter to them. Look at you, I scoffed. I merely proposed a hypothetical scenario, yet your reaction is so extreme. From the very beginning, the situation between Gu Yao and me has been unjust. My voice trembled. Have you ever considered my feelings? Was I willingly abducted? Do you know the suffering I endured during those years of captivity? Why must I graciously accept that love, which rightfully belongs to me, be taken away? It was your own folly that got you abducted in the first place. Gu Zhao blurted. Who else can you blame? I shot my gaze up, my eyes piercing like daggers. Are you certain it was my folly? I advanced towards him step by step. Gu Zhao, you've deceived everyone for so long. How can you now lie to yourself? His complexion turned as pale as a sheet. I knew he was recalling the events. When I was 7, Gu Zhao insisted on taking me to a secluded cornfield to play. Reluctant, I resisted entering, but he called me a coward and ran in without me. Soon, I heard his cries. Despite my fear, I stumbled into the cornfield to search for him, only to encounter a trafficker. After a few steps, I fell to the ground, too young to run. Brother, save me. I reached out to him, but He merely glanced at me, crying as he fled without looking back. Gu Zhao's breath quickened, cold sweat beading on his forehead. In our past life, he often claimed that my insistence on playing there was the reason for my abduction. I fixed my gaze on him. Dare you repeat that in front of me? What truly transpired when I was taken? I didn't harbor resentment towards Gu Zhao. After all, he was only 9 at the time. A child that age, faced with such fear, would naturally flee and lie. However, when he wielded that lie as a weapon against me, my understanding became a cruel joke. Gu Zhao, you accuse me of being malicious, but what about you? The reason I am what I am today is entirely due to your influence. Gu Zhao's lips trembled, yet he found no words. No, that's not how it was. Ching ching. I wanted to save you. I turned back, but you were already gone. I waved my hand dismissively. It no longer matters. In our past life, you ultimately saved me, and we're even now. Since you cannot treat us equally, please refrain from disturbing my life. Gu Zhao left in a daze. Just as I was about to close the door, Shen Yu appeared slowly around the corner, carrying groceries. You're back? Yes, just arrived. Shen Yu's culinary skills were surprisingly adept. The simple scrambled eggs with tomatoes and vegetable soup were devoured ravenously by me. This is the first time in my 2 lifetimes that I've savored a meal prepared specifically for me. In the days when I was trafficked, aside from enduring beatings and training, I was burdened with all household chores, catering to the foolish son of my captors, and my meals were perpetually cold and spoiled. Later, when I lived under the same roof as Gu Zhao, I once eagerly prepared an elaborate feast for him, only to have it overturned onto the floor. Don't waste your efforts to please me, he bellowed, his eyes reddened with fury. You've caused my parents' and sisters' deaths. I will never forgive you in this lifetime. From that moment on, the kitchen never again filled with the warmth of cooking. Tears, unbeknownst to me, had already begun to fall into my bowl. Shen Yu clumsily wiped away my tears, his voice laced with helplessness. Is it too unpalatable? I haven't tea cooked by myself for a long time. I'll make it again. I shook my head and embraced him tightly. No, it's too delicious, brother. Will you promise to cook for me for a lifetime? Shen Yu's body stiffened momentarily. Then, as if resolved, he gently patted my back. All right. The following day, Shen Yu took me to obtain a new identification card, changing my name to Shin Qing. At last, I possessed a brand new identity, and Gu Zhao never appeared again. I hoped that without my interference, they were living well. The 2 years I spent in the Shen household were the warmest of my life. Shen Yu and I interacted like true siblings. Though he was not one for many words, he had never once gone back on his promises. During these 2 years, I dedicated myself to my studies and finally gained admission to my dream university, Nanda. On the day I was to report, Shen Yu held my acceptance letter while helping me procure my campus card. As I waited for him in the shade of a tree, I unexpectedly spotted the Gu family. They were joyfully sending Gu Yao off to school. I stared in a daze at them, the radiant smiles on my parents' faces. Expressions I had never witnessed during our brief time together in my previous life. At that moment, Gu Zhao noticed me, his expression shifting instantly from surprise to a hint of displeasure. He strode over and pulled me behind the tree, lowering his voice. What are you doing here? Pausing. He seemed to realize his tone was harsh and softened it. My parents are still unaware of your existence. Gu Yao was in her last year of high school, and I didn't want to affect her, so I hadn't told them about you yet. Ching Ching, did you receive the living expenses I sent you? I strained to remember. It seemed I received a mysterious transfer each month, but I had returned it all. Not wanting to entangle myself with Gu Zhao, I replied, I have something to attend to, so I must leave. Gu Zhao, however, blocked my path, looking troubled. No, Ching Ching, you can't leave now. Gu Yao just got into Nanda, and our family is so happy. If you show up, will it disturb you? I replied calmly. But I'm also here to study at Nanda. Ching Ching, don't jest with me. Gu Zhao's tone grew anxious. You failed to get into even a junior college after several attempts. How could you possibly gain admission to Nanda? Memories of my past life surged in my mind. The blow of losing my parents, coupled with years of being trafficked and not attending school, had indeed made studying a struggle for me. I had failed multiple times to gain university admission. Gu Zhao had often ridiculed me, saying, with your foolishness, like a pig, you'll never get into college. Unbeknownst to him, in the shadows, I had never given up, diligently studying little by little, dreaming of one day being accepted into Nanda. Gu Zhao, noticing Gu Yao searching for him, urged me in a panic. Quickly leave. Don't worry, I will definitely make it up to you in the future. He even called for security, exclaiming, "This person doesn't belong to your school. Get her out." Just as the security guard approached me, a cold voice rang out, "Stop. What do you intend to do to my sister?" "Brother," I exclaimed in surprise upon seeing Shen Yu, and dashed to his side, leaving Gu Zhao behind. Gu Zhao froze, his fury igniting upon witnessing my closeness to Shen Yu. He grasped my wrist tightly. "Gu Qing, how is he here?" "I am not Gu Qing. I am Shen Qing. If you do not release me, my brother will not spare you." "Your brother? You two have been alone together for 2 years. Who knows if you are siblings or—" Gu Zhao's words faltered, regret washing over him. Before he could finish, Shen Yu's fist struck his face with force. Gu Zhao staggered back, blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. Just as he prepared to retaliate, Shen Yu brandished my acceptance letter and the martyr certificate of the Shen family, boldly declaring to the onlookers, "My sister is a new student at Nanda this year, and our parents died in the line of duty. Does Nanda intend to stand idly by while my sister is bullied? Is this the attitude you have towards the orphans of martyrs?" Shen Yu's parents were narcotics police officers. He had once told me that he was not trafficked, but rather intentionally kidnapped by his parents' enemies. By the time he was finally rescued, he had not even had a chance to meet them before they sacrificed their lives in the line of duty. Throughout the 2 years we lived together, he had never mentioned his parents. I too had avoided the subject, both of us tacitly understanding each other as sorrow. I never expected that he would mention his parents for the first time in order to protect me. My heart was a tumult of emotions. Why was he so good to me? We shared no blood ties. The crowd that had once gathered to watch suddenly shifted their demeanor. The security guard repeatedly apologized to me and, with a stern face, began to escort Gu Zhao away. Upon discovering that I had indeed gained admission to Nanda, Gu Zhao's eyes filled with regret. "I'm sorry, Qing. I didn't know you really got in." But as our parents' attention turned towards us, seemingly approaching, he had no time to finish his sentence and hurriedly departed. "Brother, you are amazing," I exclaimed, my eyes gleaming as I gazed at Shen Yu. "Did you see their expressions just now? They nearly knelt before you." Shen Yu chuckled and ruffled my hair. "Learn from your brother. Don't let yourself be bullied in the future." I thought the matter had concluded there. However, fate seemed to be playing a cruel joke. Upon pushing open the dormitory door, I found my parents and Gu Yao tidying up the beds. Gu Zhao, standing behind them, turned pale at once. As my parents' gaze fell upon my face, both inhaled sharply. My mother trembled, pointing at me. You are." "I am Shen Qing," I interrupted, linking my arm with Shen Yu's. "This is my brother." Disappointment flickered in my parents' eyes. Even as they left, my mother frequently glanced back, her eyes filled with reluctance. Gu Zhao attempted to speak with me, but Gu Yao pushed him out of the dormitory. "Brother, I can manage on my own. You should hurry back with our parents and not disturb me from getting to know my new roommate." After Gu Zhao left, Gu Yao affectionately took my arm, insisting we go purchase daily necessities. I could not refuse her, so I acquiesced. As we walked down the deserted tree-lined path, Gu Yao suddenly released my hand, her sweet smile vanishing in an instant. "Should I call you Shen Qing or Gu Qing?" she inquired, tilting her head to scrutinize me, her gaze icy. "Do you think you can truly replace me?" I stared at Gu Yao in shock, realizing she had long known of my existence. My brother had assured me long ago. Her chin raised defiantly, "The Gu family will always have only one daughter." I fell silent. Gu Zhao truly cherished his sister, even sharing such matters with her. Gu Yao regarded me with a begrudging expression. In the years I was adopted, I worked tirelessly to win their favor, to be accepted by our parents and brother. My biological parents abandoned me. I had no choice. But them? I will never relinquish them to you, even if you are their biological daughter. Observing her guarded demeanor, I suddenly realized that I ought to harbor animosity towards her. I should resent her for occupying my rightful place and relishing the life that was meant for me. Yet, at this moment, my mind was flooded with memories of the tragic car accident from my past life that claimed both her life and that of my parents. "Rest assured," I murmured, "I shall not return home." Gu Yao was momentarily taken aback, her eyes filled with confusion. "Why? Why not?" The haunting image of my parents' final words, urging Gu Zhao to take care of me, flashed through my mind, alongside the weighty memory of Gu Zhao risking his life to save me during the earthquake. Suddenly, the face of Shen Yu emerged in my thoughts, for I had already established a significant connection with another cherished family member. Just as you treasure your parents and brother, I too cannot bear the thought of losing him. Although Gu Yao struggled to comprehend my sentiments, the hostility in her gaze gradually dissipated. "What you and my brother said seems quite different," she murmured softly. I smiled gently, choosing not to inquire about what Gu Zhao had once said about me. Those matters had become inconsequential. In the days that followed, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to my studies. My papers were published in prestigious journals. My team won the international programming competition, and I earned the national scholarship with the highest score in the entire college. The girl who once fell into despair now shone brightly once more. However, this tranquility was soon shattered. One day, Gu's parents, their eyes red-rimmed, approached me. We conducted a paternity test. Qingqing, you are our daughter. Would you please return home with us? Gu Zhao stood nearby, his expression brimming with eager anticipation. Both my parents and I are elated that you've been admitted to Nanda and achieved such remarkable accomplishments. I'm sorry, I retreated a step, but I cannot go home with you. I'm already an adult. I can make my own decisions. Before Gu's parents could react, Gu Zhao stared at me in disbelief. You refuse?
Why?
You used to. I forced a smile, silently laughing at his incredulity. I thought I had been quite clear before. I met his gaze with calm resolve. This time, I had never considered returning home. I am now Xinqing, your daughter or sister, and Gu Yao is not me. Gu Zhao's complexion gradually drained of color. Suddenly, my mother lunged forward, embracing me tightly, her tears soaking my shoulder. Qingqing, during all these years you were missing. Your mother thought of you every single day. How could you possibly deny your mother? In my peripheral vision, I noticed Gu Yao biting her lip. A look of desolation etched on her face. If I return, I asked softly, what will happen to Gu Yao? I held my mother's gaze. Qingqing, your mother will certainly make amends. I know you have suffered outside for so long. Once you return, we will ensure you regain everything that is yours. Your father's company shares, the house, all of it. Seeing me unmoved, my mother exchanged a troubled glance with Gu Yao before resolutely stating, I have heard from Gu Zhao that if you insist on taking Yao Yao away, we shall send her away. After all, she is already an adult and will surely understand our decision. Gu Yao's face turned ashen, looking incredulously at Gu Zhao and our parents. However, Gu Zhao lowered his head. Unable to look at her, his gaze pleadingly fixed on me. Qingqing, ever since you spoke those words to me, I have kept them close to my heart. A few days ago, I visited the mountainous area where you were abducted, and I realized how arduous your life has been, how hard it was to arrive at this point. I know I was blind to the truth. You are my sister. Could you grant me the opportunity to make amends for my past mistakes? At that moment, my father, who had remained silent, spoke up. Qingqing, your mother and brother are right. As long as you return, feel free to voice any desires. We cannot allow such an exceptional daughter to be lost to the world. Suddenly, everything became clear to me. In my previous life, upon returning home, I was merely an illiterate girl who had been abducted from the mountains, while Gu Yao was their pampered daughter for 9 years. In this life, however, my demonstrated worth had far surpassed that of Gu Yao. I turned to Gu Zhao. You are still the same. Only after losing something do you feel regret. Then I gazed at my parents. I am thriving now and have no desire to return to the Gu family. Please, do not disrupt my life with my brother any further. Furthermore, I cast a glance at the despondent Gu Yao. She loves you dearly. Do not let her, like I once did, harm one person to prove her love for another. It is truly hypocritical. At these words, Gu Zhao's had shot up to meet my gaze, his eyes filled with remorse. Yet my parents exchanged glances. And my mother hesitantly spoke, but Shen Yu has already promised us that you would return to the Gu family. My mind was overwhelmed, and disregarding the calls of my family, I turned and fled. I purchased the next available ticket home, and upon pushing open the door to the house, the sight before me plunged my heart into despair. The once vibrant abode now lay impeccably tidy, void of the warmth of life, as though it had never been inhabited.
Shen Yu.
My voice echoed in the empty space. Tears blurred my vision as I sank to the floor, wailing like a forsaken child. Shen Yu, you great deceiver. You promised to be family for a lifetime. Qingqing? That voice made me look up abruptly. Shen Yu stood at the entrance, his frail figure appearing as though it might dissolve at any moment. I rushed to him, clinging tightly, terrified that he might vanish in the next instant. Where have you been? You cannot leave me. Why did you send me away? He gently patted my back. Isn't home a good place? I can see that your parents love you dearly. They can offer you so much more than I ever could. But they are not you. I looked up at him, tears streaming down my face. They already have their own lives, while I only have you. Shen Yu remained silent for what felt like an eternity, long enough for me to fear he would refuse me once more. Yet ultimately, he softly replied, "All right, I will not leave." That evening, he prepared a lavish dinner. I rambled on about amusing happenings at school. Your sister is excelling now. I plan to study abroad in my junior year, fully funded, not a dime from you. And I intend to apply for family accompaniment, so I can bring you along. Didn't you always say you wanted to see the world? Shen Yu listened quietly, a faint smile playing on his lips. Engrossed in my joy, I failed to notice his complexion growing increasingly pale. Brother? I discovered him quietly slumped over the table. Are you too tired? Don't sleep here. You'll catch a cold. As I approached to help him back to his room, a shocking red caught my eye. Blood trickled from the corner of Shen Yu's mouth, and a small pool of crimson stained the table. I stared at the diagnosis report. Terminal heart failure. My fingers trembled uncontrollably. The doctor leafed through a thick medical file, explaining he has a congenital heart condition, and the illicit drugs injected by the kidnappers during the abduction have made his survival, until now, nothing short of miraculous. Only then did I comprehend why Shen Yu had grown increasingly gaunt and pale over the past few years. I suddenly understood why he had never sought me out in my previous life. In that timeline, he may have already departed. Shen Yu remained in a coma. I pleaded with many people, inquiring if there was any way to save him. The only solution was a heart transplant, yet suitable hearts were rare. And finding willing specialists proved to be a challenge. Until one day, Shen Yu finally opened his eyes. With tear-filled eyes, I asked him, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" He offered a weak smile. "There are illnesses that cannot be cured. Revealing them would only cause you worry." "And what about me?" My voice fractured. "Did you never consider what would happen to me?" Shen Yu stared at the ceiling in silence for a long time. Eventually, he softly said, "Ching ching. I have already paved the way for you. Even without me, you will be able to thrive. You need not worry, I have made arrangements." I refuse to accept any fallback. You would rather prepare an escape route than attempt once more. Why do you all insist on making decisions for me? Zhao was like this, and now, Shen Yu is the same. It would be better if you were gone. A final resolution. Have you ever considered how much pain I would endure? I wept uncontrollably, grasping his hand, my eyes filled with pleading. I implore you, will you not try once more? For my sake, please strive to survive. I have discovered that the most renowned heart transplant expert is currently in the country. Once a matching heart is found, the surgery can proceed, and you could be saved. I spoke in a disjointed manner until a gentle smile graced Shen Yu's pale face. All right, then let us try again. Just then, the attending physician hurriedly entered, his expression unusually agitated. We have found it. A suitable heart donor has been located. The surgeon for Shen Yu has also been confirmed. It's Gu Yao's mentor. She has once again gone out of her way to connect us. Overwhelmed with gratitude, I was at a loss for words, yet Gu Yao merely shook her head, saying, "There is no need to thank me. I have only done what I ought to do." However, on the eve of the surgery, Gu Zhao unexpectedly arrived at the hospital. His expression a complex mixture of emotions as he looked at me. "I apologize for the past. I was wrong. Please do not be angry with the family. Your parents miss you dearly. Once Shen Yu's situation is resolved, will you return home?" I shook my head firmly. I have said it before, the Shen family is my home. Gu Qing, must you insist on Shen Yu? I chose to ignore him. Is this why you came to find me? If there's nothing else, I shall return to the ward. My brother is still waiting for me. Brother. His eyes were red, his voice hoarse. You serve him day in and day out. What is so special about him? I replied coldly. My affairs are none of your concern. None of my concern? Gu Zhao sneered. Do you have any idea how much money the family has spent on your behalf, how many connections we have leveraged? The success rate of a heart transplant is exceedingly low. All that money would be wasted. His agitation intensified. Moreover, with Shen Yu's condition, even if he is cured this time, how many more years can he possibly live? Smack. I delivered a sharp slap across his face. Gu Zhao stood there, stunned, incredulity washing over him as he touched his cheek. You hit me for him? His voice trembled. Gu Qing, understand this. I am your brother. That sickly wretch means nothing to me. I enunciated each word with conviction. I will repay you every penny. Not a single cent will be spared. But no one shall obstruct my efforts to save him. With that, I turned to leave. Behind me, Gu Zhao's anguished cries echoed. Gu Yao watched the scene unfold. Her expression a complex tapestry of emotions as she regarded her brother, now kneeling on the ground. Brother, have you ever considered that you deserve to be scolded by Qing Qing? You clearly wish to mend your relationship with her, yet you speak so cruelly. And you would prevent me from telling her that the lead surgeon is not my mentor but rather someone you begged for 3 days and nights to secure. As Shen Yu was wheeled into the operating room, I held his hand tightly. Ching ching, he murmured softly, I truly want to live. He appeared more pallid than usual, yet his eyes sparkled with an unusual brightness. I wish to spend many more years with you. I nodded vigorously, tears cascading onto the back of his hand. Yes, we will, I promise. The lights in the operating room illuminated. I stood outside, my hands clasped in fervent prayer for a miracle. Perhaps a miracle truly did occur. A nurse brought forth good news. The surgery was a success. The patient's vital signs are stable. The most challenging part has been overcome. We are now awaiting the heart transplant. I nearly wept with joy, envisioning Shen Yu's recovery. Yet soon, the waiting transformed into an excruciatingly prolonged ordeal. The operating room lights remained aglow, yet no further updates came. Until finally, the attending physician emerged, his face betraying an unmistakable weariness and regret. Doctor, where is my brother? He sighed heavily as he looked at me. I sprang to my feet, my voice trembling. Was there a problem with the transplant surgery? Or was there a rejection? I stammered. I researched. If there's a rejection, there are alternative methods. The doctor shook his head, interrupting me. The donor's family has revoked their consent for the organ donation. What do you mean? I felt as though I had been struck by lightning. They revoked their consent? How can that be? Wasn't a contract signed well in advance? I lost control, gripping the doctor's arm with nails nearly piercing his skin. How can you do this? The surgery has already commenced. My brother's heart has been removed and is waiting for transplantation. How can they still refuse? The Gu family rushed in. Gu Zhao seized me, exclaiming, Ching Ching, calm down. The doctor explained helplessly. The donor had indeed signed the organ donation agreement, but now their family has changed their minds, believing that removing the organs would affect the deceased's reincarnation. I'm sorry, but our hospital cannot disregard the wishes of the donor's family. I trembled, unable to utter a coherent sentence. You may visit him one last time, the doctor murmured softly. The hospital room was terrifyingly silent. Shen Yu lay quietly on the bed, a pristine white sheet covering his chest. I trembled as I lifted a corner of the sheet. A long incision marred his chest, a gruesome reminder of the surgery. Inside was hollow. His breathing remained steady, and his expression was serene, as though he were merely asleep. Yet I knew he would never awaken again. Never softly call my name, never wait for me to return home. Clearly, he had wished to live. When I first met Shen Yu at the Shen household, I recognized his desire to give up on life. The table was cluttered with antidepressants and a nearly empty bottle of sleeping pills. Thus, I tethered him to life with our promise. Brother, you must live, otherwise I would have nowhere to go. He agreed. Yet ultimately, I could not keep him with me. I leaned over him, embracing his increasingly cold body, tears soaking the pristine sheets. Liar, I sobbed, resting my forehead against his shoulder. We promised to be family for a lifetime. On the day of the funeral, a gentle rain fell. My parents, Gu Zhao, and Gu Yao were all present. Black umbrellas formed a canopy over the cemetery. My mother, with reddened eyes, handed me an envelope. This is what Shen Yu gave us when he first met us. I opened it to find a will. Shen Yu had bequeathed all his savings and properties, left by his parents, to me. He expressed a hope that we could grant you the freedom to choose. If you wish to return home with us, we will treat you well. If you prefer not to live with us, with this money, you can live well on your own. My mother's voice quivered. Ching Ching, you found a wonderful brother. He deserves your kindness. Gu Zhao stood beside me, raindrops cascading down his cheeks, indistinguishable from tears. Suddenly, he stepped forward, voice choked.
I am sorry.
All these years, I vented all my resentment upon you. Your nails dug deep into my palms, yet I never realized that you too were a victim. In my heart, you have always been my sister. It was my failure that caused you so much suffering. Shen Yu, he was better than I ever was. I remained silent. The wind swept through, carrying the raindrops across Shen Yu's photograph on the gravestone. His eyes were gentle, as though he were still watching over me. Forgiveness? I did not know. But I understood that some wounds cannot be healed with a mere apology. In the end, I used the money Shen Yu left behind to study abroad. At the airport, as I prepared to bid farewell, Gu Yao secretly slipped me a note with her and my parents' contact information. Sister, if you ever feel weary, remember to return home. We are all waiting for you. I smiled and tucked the note into my pocket, turning to walk through the security checkpoint. As the airplane soared into the sky, I gazed out at the billowing sea of clouds, gently caressing the pendant that hung upon my chest. Enclosed within it was a photograph of Shen Yu and me. Brother, thank you for revealing to me that I have always been cherished. This time, I shall live well in your stead. The end of the narrative. Thank you for listening. Until we meet again in the next tale.